Story 1. My boyfriend won't use his real voice, and it's becoming a problem. My 26 female boyfriend, 29 male, and I have been dating for just over 5 months now. In all other things are going pretty well thus far. We've met each other's friends, and I'm planning on introducing him to my family soon. My boyfriend's voice seems to fluctuate a lot, way beyond what is normal. 99% of the time, he'll speak in this heavy, guttural voice that sounds like an action hero or something. I know that some men have a deeper voice naturally, but my boyfriend's voice is far deeper than anyone else I know in real life. It's practically a growl. But as we've been spending more time together, I've noticed that there are certain times his voice sounds way different. For example, a few days ago, I asked him a question in the middle of the night when he was almost asleep, and his voice sounded much more normal. Whenever he's excited or taken by surprise, he lets this other voice slip. This other voice is much higher in pitch and more nasally, if that makes sense. It's nothing like the voice I associate with my boyfriend. When we first started dating, I remember noticing that my boyfriend had a voice that was lower in pitch than average, but never thought much of it. But I was watching a saved video of the two of us from a few months ago, and comparing now to then, there has been a significant drop in pitch. His voice is so gravelly now that he basically sounds like the Christian Bale Batman voice, if the guy had also been a chain smoker. This didn't really seem like an issue until I was thinking about it the other day, and I brought it up to my boyfriend just out of interest. What I wasn't expecting was for him to absolutely shut down, telling me to mind my business and that his voice had nothing to do with me. Obviously, this relationship is new, but he's never flipped out at me like that before. He's actually usually a pretty good communicator. How should I handle this? I don't really understand the issue here, or what's getting him upset, but I get the feeling it's something we need to talk about if it's making him react like this. I don't know why he'd put on a voice that's so much deeper than his natural one, especially considering nobody really talks like he does in real life.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, I'm sure it's just a naturally fine voice.
I don't know, it sounds like there's some really deep reason for him to try and hide this. I mean, how is it a problem? How is it a problem? Are other people commenting on it? Are they making disparaging remarks? Are you afraid that your family isn't going to accept him? Unless there's like a really deep reason, you might want to just let it go for a while. I mean, if you think he's lying about his voice, is he lying about any other part of his life? Maybe this is just one quirk. Story 2. Mom kidnapped our kids and said she didn't know it was against the rules. So my wife and I have 2 kids, a nearly 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. We went a cruise to the Bahamas for 2, meaning the kids couldn't go. My mother volunteers to watch the kids. Great, it's all settled. We're going to get away for a week and have some time for ourselves. As the date approaches, Mom starts talking about having the kids at her house for the week. We told her we were under the impression that she was going to be at our house. All the kids' stuff is here. Our home is a single story and easy to track the kids in. It's significantly closer to all of their doctors for emergencies. We're talking 20 minutes versus an hour and a half. And our house is baby-proofed, whereas hers is not. So we said we really felt they should be at our house, and if that didn't work out, we would make other arrangements. She said our house was fine, but days later she said she would like to be at her house because my siblings who still live with her could help watch the kids. These are the same siblings who we were told needed to be instructed on how to be nice to toddlers, which is why we weren't invited to Thanksgiving. No thanks. We'll get you support through our own channels. People you know and like who can pop in to get you relief and help out. we leave for our trip. Though, as we're showing Mom where everything is and going over food and snacks, she's more interested in playing with the kids than learning where the diapers are. So one day in the boat, my wife uses the boat's internet to do a video call to check on the kids. All seems fine, but my mother tells her not to call again for the rest of the trip because it may upset the children. My wife doesn't tell me about that part in their convo right away, but as soon as she does, we call back. When she answers, she's at her house with the kids, and you can see brand new kids' apparel and paraphernalia in the background. I asked her what happened, and she told me she was really sick and thinks she's got norovirus, WTH. What the hell? Super nauseous. It was all she could do to call her brother, who lives 5 minutes from me, to have him pack the kids in my wife's car and drive an hour and a half to her house. So, you were so sick that you couldn't watch the kids, but you could drive home in a car that wasn't yours and endanger kids that aren't yours in the event that you pass out? Or spontaneously start vomiting while on the freeway, potentially unaliving our children? Why didn't you call the list of people who said they'd come help? They had set aside parts of their weeks to come out and support with their time and money. Do they even know the kids aren't home? Do you know that one person is staying in a hotel 10 minutes from you in case of an emergency? Now they're an hour and a half from home and none the wiser for what's happening. The first thing she says is she really was sick. I never accused her of not being sick. I doubted it, but I never said it. Then she tells me, how dare I judge her for her decisions, and she doesn't have to justify herself to me, and that she doesn't have to watch my kids. I told her to pack my kids up in the car and take them home. Someone else was going to watch them. When she dropped the kids off, she was nasty to the new caretakers and sulked. As soon as I knew the kids were safe, I sent her a message saying she clearly didn't respect us as parents. Doesn't matter how many kids she's raised. These are ours, and she sure as hell needed to justify herself and check in with us if she was too sick to do her job. We have the right to know what's going on with our kids, and any sane person would call and ask us what we wanted them to do before packing the kids up and taking them away. If the roles were reversed, she would have absolutely lost her mind, and I know because I've seen it. And that she didn't need to see the kids again if she was going to go that far out of her way to undermine us and then act like a spoiled child to family and friends when she gets caught. The next day, she replied to the message saying she didn't realize she did anything that was that far out of expected parameters. Yeah, her words. And that she recognized that parents had their own rules and she would have to learn ours. Never did anything resembling sorry came from across that message or in that message or in any other. We blocked her on social media and haven't spoken to her since. I mean, really. She thinks she has the right of grandmother or something like that? I mean, I'm glad that they were able to get someone that they had such plans that they were able to get someone to take over on this stuff. Just really amazing. I hope they can enjoy the rest of their trip, but really, wow, this grandmother just was really acting selfishly. I mean, I would almost suspect that when they were about to come back, she would say, well, why not just let them stay over here for another week? I'm pretty sure she wanted to just take over these kids. Story 3. MonsterinLaw excludes my oldest, so I exclude her. I, 25 female, married my husband James, 29 male, 2 years ago. I have a daughter, 11 female, Lily. Yes, I had a kid at 14. I don't regret having her, just the timing of it all. And I also have 2 twin girls, 8 months. Lily's father was never present in her life, so when James came around, I was honestly surprised by the father role he took and how much Lily loved him. I knew after a year I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. Around the time we were planning for the wedding, my mother-in-law kept making remarks about Lily not being James' child, but we brushed it off until my mother-in-law flat out told us she wouldn't be financing the wedding if Lily wasn't a guest. Mother-in-law also said because she wasn't his, she'd never support Lily. We had no problems with mother-in-law not paying for the wedding. We were just both taken aback she'd ever say anything like this. I obviously objected to that bewildering statement, and so did James. Mother-in-law tried to plead with James, and when he wouldn't budge, mother-in-law stormed out of our house. Lily was our flower girl, and on the day of the wedding, mother-in-law tried to stop Lily 3 times, once by even blocking the path to the altar, but was easily stopped each time by other guests and the groomsmen. Besides that, our wedding went off without a hitch, and I wouldn't have preferred it any other way. The wedding was magical, besides the beast. After having my twins, mother-in-law withdrew from Lily entirely. Lily, not understanding why, was obviously upset. Well, over the weekend, Lily celebrated her 11th birthday, and per her request, she wanted everyone to give a speech at her birthday. Everyone but mother-in-law was included. Mother-in-law hates not being front and center, always, so when everyone was done giving their speeches, I turned around to see mother-in-law, and she was ticked. She later pulled me and James aside and asked why she wasn't included. I asked her, what happened to never supporting Lily? After the party, James asked why mother-in-law wasn't included. I told him after the wedding fiasco and not giving Lily equal amount of time as she did the twins, she wasn't to be included in that portion of the party. James agrees with me, but mother-in-law is still upset about the whole ordeal. Yeah, because she thinks what she says goes. I mean, there are a lot of families where the matriarch or the patriarch is the one that has say over things, but these people have decided that's not the way they're going to go, and it's really hurtful to an 11-year-old to try and block them from taking part in their mom's wedding like that. Really awful. Story 4. Am I the a-hole for calling out stepfamily's dirty laundry at Thanksgiving after they criticized me for being unmarried? I'm still getting smacked for this from my family, so it's possible I may be a bit of the a-hole here. I'm 29 female. The players are my mom, stepdad, and 4 step-siblings. 35 male, 37 male, 40 female, 42 male, and their families. I'm the black sheep in that I'm the only one not married with kids, but that's by my preference. I love living alone. I don't want kids, and having a partner just isn't that important to me. My family has been asking me when I'm going to get a boyfriend and settle down since I was 19, and the answer has always been, ew, never. I was going to skip Thanksgiving, but my mom insisted that she wanted everyone home this year if possible, so I went. It was the usual drill, but the youngest stepbrother and his wife are having another kid, so that was the big announcement. This was fine until around the end of dinner. One of the sister-in-laws asked if I'm not anxious to have kids since I'm almost 30 and time is running out. I laughed and said, nah, I'm good. That led to one of the stepbrothers saying that every family needs an old maiden aunt, and some other comments I didn't appreciate. I said, let's move on, but Mom says, we're just worried about you. This is where I'm possibly the a-hole. I know all the family dirt, so I said, well, I'm the only person at this table that's not an alcoholic, a cheater, or constantly broke because I have more kids than I can afford, so I'm not the one to worry about. And that's how I brought Thanksgiving to a complete halt and no one said a thing for the rest of dinner. But my texts are still radioactive. I feel like it was probably riding the line, and my mom says this has caused a lot of problems among the siblings, but also they kind of started it. I don't think it's completely undeserved. You're still kind of the a-hole for letting that blurt out. Maybe talk to people themselves on their, like one-on-one. And if that is still not anything to convince them and something that doesn't work, probably just start limiting your contact or go no contact if they're going to keep hounding you about this like that. I know people have their breaking point. It's kind of not fair to ruin Thanksgiving for the whole families. I mean, breaking news that probably some of the kids don't even know about. Little bit the a-hole. Little bit. They deserved it, though.
Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 5. Only do what's in my job title? Fine. Good luck paying employees. So I work for a construction company as an inventory admin. My job is to basically schedule counts of our warehouse and input the numbers they give me for inventory. Then try to see what the problem is when the numbers on the last count and current count don't add up. There's a little bit more to it, but I won't bore you with the specifics. The problem with this job is that when you've been doing it long enough and are good at it, there's less work to do. In the beginning, when counting one rack out of 60 racks of material would take a few days, it was fine because I was always busy. But now that everything is in order, the entire warehouse can be counted in 3 days. This leaves me bored for most of the time. So, to fix this, I studied up on our cloud-based ERP service that we used for all internal and external transactions and have become sort of an expert on it. Every single aspect of this company uses this ERP service to do their job. Timesheets, HR, payroll, accounting, scheduling, management, manufacturing, ordering from vendors, delivering, inventory, etc., all run through this ERP service. So it's very important that this service is up and running perfectly 24/7. I became so proficient in this service that our VIP decided to cut ties with our consultants of the ERP because I could do what they did, but better, quicker, and much cheaper. For reference, we were paying these consultants $5,000 a month just to be on standby if we needed them for some sort of problem that could arise from using this ERP, and had to dish out more money to fix those problems, depending on how many hours of their time was spent to fix said problems. Not sure on their exact rate, but it was something like $200 an hour, and they took weeks to fix anything, while I could fix the problem in time for my daily afternoon poop break. I never got an official job title or raise of any kind for being an expert on this service. The company just saw me being able to do it and let me fix things that happened so they no longer needed outside help. I wasn't too upset because it gave me something to do, so I was glad to help the company save money, even if none of that money fell my way. Skip ahead a few months. We now have some new warehouse manager, and someone in the warehouse messes something up in inventory by sending a bunch of materials to the wrong job with no records of it being shipped. We're talking $500,000 frack up here. On the same day, our ERP had an update that caused a bunch of bugs with our accounting department. So I decided to work on the ERP problem first because the warehouse frack-up is more of a delay frack-up and not actually stopping anybody from doing their job at the moment. While the accounting problem means our bills are not able to be paid. You can guess what kind of issues we'll have if bills aren't paid. The ERP bugs turned out to be quite big and numerous, so it ends up taking me a couple of days to figure it out. But I fix it before any bills are actually due and decide to take lunch a little early to celebrate a victory. Crisis averted. New warehouse manager storms into my office after I get back from lunch and is livid. Apparently, the bosses were pinning the blame on him for the warehouse frack-up. And considering he is the one who oversees shipments and personnel in the warehouse, the blame is rightfully placed. He starts lying to me, asking why I haven't fixed the problem yet. Yelling and screaming like a child. I tried explaining that I was fixing an ERP issue and have not had time to look at the warehouse problem yet. He gets even more angry and notes that it's funny how I have time to take early lunches but not do my job. This starts to tick me off, but I held my tongue and kept calm about the situation. He then ordered me to only do what is in my job title and to leave the ERP hogwash to the people competent enough to handle it. As he puts it, since this guy was technically my superior, I had no choice but to obey. I asked him to send me that in writing, and he snarks and storms back into his office. 5 minutes later, I get an email saying that under no circumstances am I to work on anything related to ERP unless it involves inventory. Cue malicious compliance. I do nothing but inventory from that point forward, knowing damn well that we would be essentially coasting until we hit a problem that I would refuse to fix. Sure enough, not even a week later, I get an email from HR that some sort of bug in the ERP system was preventing them from accessing payroll to pay employees this week. I reply with an apology that I am no longer able to work on ERP bugs due to my superior and to refer to the ERP system help guide for further assistance. I knew the help guide was not going to help her in the slightest, but it was no longer my problem, so I was not going to deal with it. Skip a few days later to Friday. I checked my bank account in the morning before getting to work and laughed because there was no money deposited. That problem never got fixed. I hurry up and get to work, excited to see the chaos unfold. And what I was expecting was an understatement. When I show up to work, I see the entire warehouse staff of 50 people walking out of the front door. I stopped one and asked why they were leaving, and they replied, "I didn't get paid today, so I'm not coming back until I do." I go into the office and see the warehouse manager in a panic. He has jobs that need material and nobody to load it onto trucks or deliver. I ask him if he needs help with anything, and he just screams at me to leave his office because he's getting phone calls from superintendents of jobs asking why our material has not arrived yet. I pass by HR on my way to my office and see a bunch of the bosses huddled over her computer with her with angry and confused expressions on their face. I guess trying to figure out the problem. I felt bad for her because it really was something out of her control, but I knew she would ultimately be okay because she had been there for so long that they would never fire her. When I get to my office, I see the VP waiting for me there. He has a very ticked-off expression on his face. When we get inside, he demands to know why I did not fix the problem in HR when she emailed me about it. I replied that I am no longer allowed to work on ERP problems as it is not in my job title. He had the most shocked look on his face and asked why all of a sudden I had a change of heart. I showed him the email from the warehouse manager, and I could see the dots connecting in his head. He immediately storms out, and I see him heading straight to the warehouse manager's office. They were there for a few hours, but eventually he came back into my office. He seems calmer now and asks me politely if I can fix the problem in HR and if I can resume fixing the ERP, if needed. At this point, I liked the relief of responsibility and told him I would only do it if he put it officially in my job title along with a raise. His calmness turned to anger again, and he said, "I cannot believe you," as he storms out and returns to his office. A few hours later, he sends out a mass email that he has hired the old ERP consultants to fix the problem and that next week everyone would be paid for the money they're owed, along with the money they earned if they returned to work. This one surprised me, as he would rather pay over $60,000 a year to consultants than give me a few extra bucks an hour for better work. I think he expected me to change my mind and just do it for my own paycheck. But I decided to wait because I knew how these consultants were, and if they managed to fix the problem in a week, I would streak naked through the office. Most of the warehouse staff agreed to return, but were still upset about not getting paid. Sure enough, next Friday comes around. Nobody gets paid again. At this point, it's becoming a real problem, and the entire staff is becoming agitated. They have bills to pay. I even heard a bunch of the warehouse talking about some competitors nearby they could go work for. At this point, I even considered just fixing the problem because the warehouse didn't deserve to be treated like that due to poor management. Maybe I'm the a-hole here for this, but I'm severely underpaid and can barely afford my apartment. There is no reason I should do extra work for free. That same day, the VP returns to my office and hands me papers. These papers said that I would be promoted to a newly created position that dealt with inventory/ERP upkeep. It would be its own department, and he would be my direct supervisor, also with a hefty raise. All I had to do was sign and agree. I looked up at him after reading the paper, and he had the saddest look on his face. Please, just sign it. The consultants said it would take them weeks to get around to fixing it due to the high volume of clients they've taken on, and we can't keep skipping paychecks. I happily signed it and immediately got to work on the HR issue. Managed to even fix it that same day. It was just a simple problem with the permissions of HR and payroll in the ERP due to the update. Fine, you knew your work. This person took the time out to learn some skills on their own and put them into practice. He was able to demonstrate further worth, and he was in a great position to get a new title and more compensation for the work that he was doing in addition to the regular stuff. Great. Someone that's competent getting what they deserve. It should work out like that, shouldn't it?
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.